The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going?
And Joanne Mercier. Hey, Joanne.
Hey, Dom.
Folks, I want to tell you about another StarQuest Network show you are sure to enjoy called The Catholics of Oz. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/OZ. And you will get all kinds of awesome stuff about what's going on in Australia, New Zealand, and other Catholic stuff and science and entertainment. They do a great job over there. So check that out at The Catholics of Oz. So before we get into our main topic, we do have a little bit of listener feedback. We got something from on our recent episode where I talked with Father Andrew and Pat about technology for students and studying. And Lanky Ogre on our Discord server at sqpn.com/Discord says, I just listened to the students and studying episode, and I was really disappointed that they didn't bring up Chromebooks at all. And Google Suites got just the barest passing mention. You're right. We didn't actually talk a lot about Chromebooks. I'm not sure. I'm not biased against it. My daughter had a Chromebook for many years that she used for her schoolwork. I guess I was focusing more on college stuff, and I think a lot of college students are mainly Windows and Mac OS. But there are some decent Chromebooks out there that you can get even at a decent price point around, the same price as you get for Macs and Windows laptops.
Often cheaper.
Yeah.
Often a Chromebook is cheaper equivalently because it doesn't have the full featured operating system. And that's by design. It's meant to be a kind of walled garden. Yes. To use the Apple term, where you're using the Google services and you're using the web and interface and stuff like that. And so, for students, even for college students, I think as long as they're not doing a technical field, if they're doing journalism, if they're doing, English lit, humanities, stuff like that, even like nursing. Yeah, I think even that, because you might not have that idea, anything where you'd have to run a Windows or Mac program. As part of your classes,
right?
You'd be fine. And I think it would actually work really well for them because I think a lot of universities are doing either like the Office 365 or Google Suite packages with their students. So that would work for that.
And we definitely did mention the Google Suites especially in its collaboration abilities. I mean, you could use it on your own as an individual. And I mean, I use it every day for what we do here. But like you said, a lot of universities will have discounted versions of Office that they give, but if you're on a Chromebook, you certainly can't run Office on it or LibreOffice. So sure, you would be using Google Suites, and it's perfectly functional for that. So that's
and you can do. They do have the online version of Office, but it's stripped down compared to it's similar in feature set to the Google Suites.
In which case, you may as well just use Google Suites if you're on a Chromebook.
Yeah.
And, I look at Chromebooks as something that's better for middle school, high school. Once you get into university, it's like, okay, some people are studying intricate things like, for example, music. There is no online music that I know of, that does notation or scoring or anything like that. So you have to have a computer for that.
Well, and that's getting into the technical fields as well. If you're an engineer, you're going to be using CAD drawing software and things like that. I just used the same word, computer aided design drawing. No, that's fine. Actually, I was thinking I was doing the ATM machine problem.
And pin numbers.
But these computer design or engineering design and even some programming, you're going to need software that's not available on a Chromebook.
Science and math and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I just will say I listened to that episode and I thought you guys did a great job trying to break all of that down. And I know you mentioned, well, Chromebooks are a different thing. And that's the reason why, because they're limited, and therefore a group that is not highly technical, that's using a computer for proprietary software or anything specific to a particular occupation or what they're going to be studying.
Yeah. And someone also brought up Linux. We didn't talk much about Linux. And honestly, I did some research beforehand, and, more than 90% of people are using Windows or Mac OS. And, it's a very small percentage that use Linux, and usually in a highly technical area where you would know whether you need to have Linux or not, frankly. So, but Linux is a possibility if you're someone who I wouldn't take someone who's used to Chromebook or Mac or Windows and send them off to college with a Linux machine as their first Linux machine. That's probably a bad idea because they're going to have to figure out how that works in addition to, all the other stuff about college. So send them with something they know. That's probably the best thing. Right. All right, so let's talk about our main topic today. This was a topic that came by request from a listener who wanted us to talk more about, or at all about, personal finance software. And this is an important area. We all have stewardship of the finances and funds that God blesses us with, and we have responsibilities toward ourselves and to other people, and to use our money wisely and that sort of thing. So personal finance software is a big area, and there's a lot of stuff out there, and we're only going to be covering, we're going to cover as much as we can. There's a lot more out there. As I was researching this topic, there's just so much out there for this sort of thing, covering all kinds of areas. So we're going to kind of hit the big names and some of the stuff that we're familiar with. And if folks have particular questions about things, they can certainly ask us on our Discord or email us at technology@sqpn.com, and we can come back to it. But the first thing to say about this is the company Intuit, dominates this space. The vast majority, they have multiple different product lines covering this. They've purchased many companies. And so a lot of this stuff is going to, and we'll start with Intuit. They are the big behemoth in personal finance software. But just keep that in mind, and we'll identify them. But we also have other sources. If you don't want to have to be beholden to Intuit, we have some others to recommend as well. So we should start with the granddaddy of them all, the big kahuna, which is Quicken. Quicken is, I remember using Quicken on my Apple II 30 years ago, probably. I don't know, a long time ago. Quicken has been around forever.
I think I had a 96 edition of it, back on my old Windows 3.1 machine.
Yes.
It was the first software I used.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been using Quicken for a very long time as well.
Yeah. So, and it's related to a business product that they have. We're not going to really talk about business class software, but, they have QuickBooks and that stuff. But Quicken, they have multiple editions of Quicken available, but the basic package is Quicken Deluxe, I think they call it. And it's the $36 a year for the basic package. And it does traditional category-based budgeting. So it offers, you have your budget area for housing and a budget area for food and, that sort of thing. And it has all of the basic functions. And then there are packages that give you more if you need more, if you have more complex investments or rental properties and some other things like that. Quicken has basic investment related features, and it has some tax related features. And one of the things where it's apparently stands out is in what if analysis. So it lets you kind of say, well, what if I got a raise, or what if I spent more money in this area, or what if I saved more, and how that would pan out in the future. So Joanne, you said that you guys your family use Quicken. Is there anything particular with Quicken that you prefer? Is it a better package? Have you tried other things?
My husband is a businessman, so he has always been with the Intuit family of whatever. And he wanted me to get it out of the paper checkbook into a digital checkbook. So we just have the starter plan. Okay, they have, for Mac at least, they have 3 plans: Starter, Deluxe, and Premier. And I just need it as a checkbook. In Deluxe, it gets bigger. In Premier, you can even do retirement planning. So, of course, I've started to say, dear, should we probably be looking at some of that? But I like it because it can be that simple. The way I have it set up is a basic checking account where I see check numbers, I see the payee, I see the category, deposits, amounts, and balance. So I'm good with that. It will, you can click something, it'll show me my spending, and I cry every time I see that. Because the key to this is using the categories. If you are really diligent and everybody you pay is in a specific category, you can see how much you spend at home, how much you spend for taxes, how much you spend for shopping. If not, it's all over the place. You keep using uncategorized. You look at uncategorized and go, gee, what does that all mean? What you can do with this also is you can hook it up to your account, your
bank
checking account.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to be the real Debbie Downer. I have not gotten into that because I've seen the problems that people have with it. If the bank screws up, they're screwed up. Okay. And so I keep everything. I always have my window open for my bank. I put in whatever comes in. I put in my deposits in manually. I just do it as a safeguard. Your mileage may vary, but this has worked for us for 25 years at least. And my husband actually uses the starter package to run his tax preparation. He can, instead of QuickBooks is too big. QuickBooks has gotten really big. We use QuickBooks in the diocese, to manage the parishes and collaboratives. So for us at home, it's been, this works fine for him. But then my husband uses Excel on top of it.
Oh, yeah, an Excel spreadsheet, yeah.
Yeah, he'll use an Excel spreadsheet because he is master of Excel and he just loves it and he can make it do anything he wants it to do. So, but these are going up their subscription. I hate it because, every year it's a new expense. It was 36 last year. It's 41 this year. What's it going to be next? And that's the starter. What's it going to be next year?
And the thing is with the starter, like if you need to track loans or investments or you want to do yearly budgets or that sort of thing, that you can't do that in the starter. You have to move up to the deluxe.
Right.
And then, it goes up from there. So, I mean, in one sense, it's good because then you're not paying for features you don't need. But Quicken looks like it might be the more expensive option for a lot of things.
Yeah, because their Premier is up to $90 a year.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. We've stuck with starter, and my husband can make anything work with the Excel spreadsheets. If he doesn't have it in Quicken, he puts it in Excel.
One thing kind of mentioned too is, of course, Quicken started as a standalone program that wasn't online, and if you can get a legal copy of some of the older versions, that may be sufficient for you.
Yeah.
Not
again,
really.
Legal that does not have the online stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That does not have the online stuff. That's the point. I mean, some of the online stuff's not going to work. But if you can get the old, I mean, we're talking almost a decade old version of Quicken, but you'd be surprised what you can find in places like Goodwill.
Yeah.
But
like
for
a box.
software.
Yeah.
A box and stuff like that. If you can find that may be sufficient for you too, because if you're just doing basic checkbook stuff, you're not doing the investment, you're not doing the bank connections, you're not doing any of that kind of stuff, maybe you're doing your budget in it, that might be sufficient. But again, I'm going to emphasize this.
Legal
old copy. And they're out there. They are out there.
I get you, but don't hook it up to a computer that goes on the internet. Because if it tries to phone home for any reason, QuickBooks will start saying, you need to get a subscription. And that's why we ended up getting a subscription. We had legal copies.
Yeah.
And they were just making it more and more difficult.
They should probably give you the nag screen, but they shouldn't cut you off.
Yeah.
It
depends on how old.
I won't go into what happened with QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's QuickBooks too, though. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, true. But
so one of the things you mentioned, Joanne, is the automatic syncing. A lot of these services will offer to automatically, if you enter in your account information for your bank, your credit cards, your loans, your IRA, all that sort of stuff, it will automatically download any transactions and information, try to categorize it for you, use its smarts. I have in the past found that to be meh, at figuring out what things are. And then I end up spending a lot of time saying, this is this category, this is this category. And frankly, one of the things that most of them do is they allow you to do split transactions. Cause I'll tell you, sometimes I buy things that would fall in more than one budget category. So I end up splitting the items out. And so a lot of them will allow you to do Quicken will allow you to do split transactions, but that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. And you have to weigh whether that is worthwhile. Is it important enough to do all that categorization for you? Or I would suggest sometimes if you really want to budget, make big categories, not small fine-tuned categories. You'll just save yourself time.
You mean not fuel for car number 1, fuel for car number 2?
No, but if you're doing home, you really would want to separate utilities from other things. It also has a nice calendar feature too, where you can hit calendar. It'll show you what you did on every day. So if something got paid, this is what happened on this day. And you can see it almost like tracking your spending.
Yep.
And tracking your income. So mine comes in on a Tuesday, and by Friday it's out the door. So
another thing to look for when you're looking for software in general, is ones that have bank bill pay, so that you can pay your bills through the software. You don't have to go to a separate bank website if that's possible. Sometimes that's possible. Also, bill reminders is a very handy feature, so it can remind you when a bill's coming up, and you can even schedule bills. I use my OmniFocus task tracker for that, but you could have that all in one place. So
some of these software packages you could just set up where every month on this date this bill gets entered.
Yes.
And it just does it.
Right.
And so that, especially if that's an online automatic, the gas bill gets paid every first of the month and it's done automatically. And here's how much it's, and then you just have to change how much it happens to be or whatever.
Yeah. That would be, that's great. You can either do that sometimes you can do it on the website of the company you're doing business with, or if they don't do it, maybe you can do it inside the software that you're using. So, like I said, Intuit has a lot of products. So they have another one called Simplify. And it's kind of, when I first encountered this, I'm like, what's this? Why would I do this instead of just do Quicken? So Simplify they bill it as simple finance tracking in 5 minutes a week. Now, the bottom line, we'll give you the bottom line in front. It's $6 a month, so it's more expensive than Quicken Starter, or $60 a year. So it kind of falls in the middle of Quicken's various price points. It has a simplified interface for tracking expenses and to budget and save. I feel like this is aimed at a younger audience who doesn't want something that looks like accounting software, but wants to have a lot of that same information for budgeting. One of the features that it touts is that it automatically generates a monthly spending plan based on your income, bills, and subscriptions that it sees, and then tells you, here, this is what's left to spend. So it's sort of budgeting based on your history and your current, past and present. It will auto-detect bills, so it synchronizes with your accounts, so it auto-detect bills, but it doesn't have bank bill pay, and it has only very basic investment features. So one thing I'll put in the show notes is a link to an article that compares Quicken to Simplify and shows where one is better than the other, and it kind of weighs out the various aspects of it. But actually, I'm sorry, Simplify in our next one, which is also an Intuit product, which is Mint, that compares those two, the differences. And I'll just briefly mention Mint. Mint is like it's very similar to Simplify, where it auto detects transactions, it synchronizes with your accounts, but it doesn't cost any money. It's actually free. The way that they offer it for free is they offer you finance products based on your activity and what they detect in your bills and how you're spending money, and so they'll offer credit cards and loans and that sort of stuff. So it can be a little naggy, a little annoying that way. The budgeting and spending tracking tools are more simplified, more basic than Simplifies. Sorry, because I know that's going to sound confusing. And it does have some investment tracking tools that Simplify doesn't have. So, but it's free.
And see, when I was looking at Simplify and Mint, I noticed Simplify looks more like Quicken, just, pared back. Mint is a totally different beast altogether.
But
now I can
understand.
For that. Yeah, now I can understand why.
Well, there's another good reason for that. Mint was not created by Intuit originally. It was bought by Intuit about a decade ago or a little less than that.
Yeah.
Because I played with it when it was still a different, when it was kind of a standalone thing. It kind of started as a kind of a grassroots project that really developed, and Intuit said, "Thank you. Here's the money. Give us the product."
Yeah, they did. I used Mint as well at the time, and it was okay. I tried to use it for what it is, for the product it is. And like a lot of these things, I just found that it didn't give me it's not that it didn't give me the information. I just found I spent so much time working on it, recategorizing things, and it wouldn't learn hey, every time you see this particular thing in my transactions, that's what this is. So in the future, and that's one of the frustrating things to me is when these things don't learn. I want them to learn, every time you see this particular phrase, that means it's this. And so I end up not using the product after a while because I don't get annoyed with it. But so Mint is different. It's simplified, and I feel like that's the way that they've done this is you have Mint on one end, Quicken on the other, and Simplify in the middle, and that's why you have these products in their range.
Now is Quicken, Joanne, is Quicken still a actual desktop app like it was back in the day?
It's desktop and iOS.
Okay, but it's still, you still download an actual program to run Quicken, and I think that's a key distinction too. Is Quicken is still the old-fashioned Windows or Mac-based app, whereas Simplify and Mint are both web-based.
That's true.
Web and iOS and Android-based.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've had a little bit of problem using Quicken on my iPad because it doesn't like to play the same way with the categories. So I end up using it mostly on the desktop.
Okay. It's interesting that I thought they did have a web interface, but it is downloadable software too. I know QuickBooks is a web interface now.
Yeah, I was going to say QuickBooks is web interface, and that they don't want you to have on your computer because they want you to subscribe to them.
Right.
Exactly.
So now, while we're talking about all the various Intuit products, I just wanted to mention that there's another finance product that they have called Credit Karma that does your credit monitoring. It'll give you your credit score, and that basically for free, you get a free credit score. It's a bit naggy. When I say it's a bit naggy, it's very naggy. It's always trying to get you to open new accounts, and people who, financial advisors will tell you it's not a great idea to open many new accounts, despite what Credit Karma tells you. You can grow your credit by having new accounts. The more often you open accounts, that actually affects your credit score. It'll actually bring it down some. Yep. So,
Yeah, one thing it does where supposed to give you, a boost of your credit score. Well, part of it is giving you more credit available to you.
Yes.
So that it looks like you're not using as much of your total credit availability.
Right.
So if you go from, 80%, 70% on credit cards to 50 or 60%, well, yeah, your credit scores can go up. It just means now you've got more credit sitting out there available to you that you could waste if you're not very smart.
Yes.
And one thing you should mention too is Credit Karma. So I've been using TurboTax again, going all the way back to the 90s, back when you actually had to go buy the box of TurboTax,
yes,
and install it on your computer. Recently they've combined, of course, TurboTax is also owned by Intuit. And now if you want to do your tracking of your tax returns, you have to do it through Credit Karma.
Right. Yeah.
Which is really annoying. That's the only reason why I have a Credit Karma account, is so I could track my tax returns.
Your return coming back. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you be careful with it. I mean, it's useful. And then there are other sources for your credit score for free. Like you can get free credit scores from other places as well. They have some premium products. I don't really see any point in that, and if you have a Credit Karma, you go to Credit Karma and has set up an account, you can, if you're actually looking for credit, car loan or credit card or mortgage, they have some tools to help you find those. And so that can be useful if you're in the market for credit of various kinds. But, just be careful with what the recommendations and the nagging it gives you. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Credit Karma. And again, it's free for basic functions. There are premium products for some reason. I don't know why. So let's talk about another product that I've used before, which is called YNAB, which is short for You Need a Budget. And let me tell you, YNAB for some people is a way of life. I mean, they evangelize YNAB. It's almost like a religion. Because for some people, this is the way that finally figured out a way to keep track of their money, to get their finances in order. It just clicked for them. And that's one of the nice things with having a variety of products out there is different people have different things that click for them. Someone who is an accountant or thinks like an accountant, Quicken is the thing. Someone who's a bit more, on the humanities side of things, shall we say, some of these other products might be a better fit. So YNAB is envelope budgeting, which is different from traditional budgeting. So every dollar that you earn in your paycheck is accounted for before it ever hits your bank, basically. And so you have envelopes, quote unquote, in this case virtual. In the past, it was literal envelopes. Like people would go to the bank, cash their check, have a bunch of cash, and have a series of envelopes that they would keep in a drawer. It's a bad idea to keep that much cash in a drawer, but this is the food money and this is the entertainment money, etc. And you would spend those dollars, and when that envelope was empty, you were done spending that money. So it's more present budgeting rather than future budgeting in a sense. So the big thing is every dollar has a job. Every dollar has a purpose, and so some of it goes to savings and that sort of thing. And so in a way, the way it works is it's supposed to prevent you from overspending in one category and then saying, oh, but I still get money in this category because I haven't spent that yet. You know what I mean? It's like you have deficit spending. So this is supposed to prevent deficit spending. I used it for a while, and like a lot of these things, I just kind of fell out of favor for me because I have a family of 7. We have a fairly not super complex, financial situation, but it just became a lot of work to keep track of these things. And some months, we've got to spend a bunch of extra money on summer camp or fixing the dishwasher and budgeting that stuff out over a long period. Like, you fix the dishwasher once a year, and I've got to be putting money away from every paycheck toward that. It didn't work for me.
It is kind of an idealistic, simplistic model for budgeting. I mean, again, if your my personal budget is pretty simple. So, I mean, something like this might work if I had the discipline to do it.
Yeah.
But, like you said, Dom, there are going to be things that are going to come up. And I know it does count for that as well. Okay, so your food budget, you went over your food budget this month. That's fine because it just means you're not going out to eat. And so you can take that money from the entertainment budget and move it to the food budget.
Right.
And stuff like that. So there are ways to handle things like that.
Yeah.
But if your budget is somewhat complex and it doesn't have a lot of flexibilities for those kind of emergencies you're talking about, unless you're planning, have your emergency envelope
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
You got to know, this is how my mother ended up taking care of our family, because my father had a 6-month-a-year job.
Yeah.
So she had to figure out how to take 6 months of pay and stretch it out to 12. And she used the envelope system, not as intricate as we would today, but here was food, here was house, here was rent, here was food, here was clothes.
Yeah.
And then extra.
Right.
And extra was what happened when one of those other 3 ran out. And she did it for years. And that's why when you said that that's what that is, it's like, yeah, for some people, if you're just looking at a very simplistic, or you have the type of job where you're a gig person, you're a gig worker, and you have to make this stretch, this might be something you could benefit from. But don't knock the envelope system, because it got a lot of people, and it came out of the Depression.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that's where it came out of, because they had to figure out how to make things last.
Yeah.
And if we go into another depression, then we'll know how to do it with electronics this time.
Right. So YNAB is on the more expensive end of these. It's $15 a month or $100 a year. So I think that's the most expensive of all these, except for these, even more than Premier Deluxe or Quick and Premier, I think it was. So it's on the highest end of the cost of things.
That's the first envelope.
Yeah,
the first envelope is paying for this.
Yes. Now, I want to come back to Rocket Money. I want to talk about that because that's something I'm actually using now, but I'll come back to that. Let's talk about some other software. These are downloadable software. Greenbooks for Mac and MoneyWiz for Mac are two finance software. Greenbooks is $30. It's a one-time purchase with upgrades, or it's part of SetApp. And so it's basically free, and it's they also have a $10 iPhone app, and Greenbooks has basically 2 simple parts. It shows you your breakdown and trends, and that's really what it's about, is showing you the breakdown of your spending and the trends of your spending. Budget is not necessary in this case if those give you enough data to keep track of your money. So for some people, again, their needs are simple enough that showing the breakdown of how you spend and the trend of your spending is enough to help you keep track of your money. MoneyWiz is another Mac software. It's a subscription. It's $5 a month, or $25 or $50 a year, depending on the features you get, or free with SetApp. So that's actually a nice aspect of it. It has lots of features. It is packed. It compares to Quicken for its feature list. And it can do all kinds of complex transactions and accounts and syncing. If you have bank accounts outside the US, it will sync with certain, other, outside the US banks. So that's a possibility. There is a lot to this app. There's a lot going on there. Father Cory, you had one that you wanted to mention that you use?
Yeah. So of course, for me, cross-platform is a big deal.
Yes.
It's been for, a long time. And what I use is called Money Dance. It's from a company called Infinite Kind. And this one has been around for a very long time. I've been using it for almost 20 years. And it's a Java app. It came out when Java was the big hotness, and it still kind of sticks around. But the advantage of that, of course, is it is cross-platform. It works on Mac, it works on Linux, it works on Windows. It has iOS and Android versions as well that sync through Dropbox. So that makes it really easy for syncing and everything. And I would say it's fairly feature parity with Quicken as well. Mm-hmm. It does have a lot of your budgeting. It does a lot of your tracking, your categories, all that kind of stuff. It can do some investment. I haven't really played with the investment side of it, but it can do some of that kind of stuff. It's $65 for 2 years of updates. So what it means is if you bought it right now, you would get the 2023 and 2024 versions for $65. But then you could keep using the 2024 version for the rest of your life, for as long as, you can get the software and use it.
Right.
Or it's $9 a month, and that's with just continual updates. But that also allows you to do the online banking component, where you can go and connect your bank accounts, and it sucks it down instead of having to do the export from your bank account and import into here.
Yep.
So that helps a lot for being able to kind of keep track of that if you want to do that. But it's something I've used. Again, if you're familiar with Quicken, you're familiar with some of these other software packages, it's pretty much the same thing. Big advantage again is it's cross-platform and it is a dedicated app.
Yeah.
So that you do, again, you can buy one license and keep using it. I could keep using one of my old licenses if I wanted to, because they do allow upgrade paths as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say you bought the 2023 license in 2025, you can pay like half cost or $25 for the next license and the next,
Yep.
So they want you to keep using it, and of course but they want to have it so that you have the freedom to just say, okay, I paid enough for this and I'm good to go. So, but it, like I said, it does a lot of the Quicken stuff and those features.
One of the things that we should mention is that when apps do have phone apps versions, of them, one of the potential uses for that is to keep track on the go, so that when you're spending out there, you don't have to come home with all your receipts and enter them in, and that sort of thing. But you're out and, like a lot of your transactions, if you use your debit card, for instance, that if you have the syncing, that'll come down. But, say you go out to lunch with friends and you chip in $20 toward it, you can enter that right there. Yep. So you don't forget that you spent that money and that sort of thing. So, cash transactions or other sorts of transactions that aren't synced or that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And you can look at a glance too, instead of having to go, okay, have I got paid yet? Oh, it's true because it's synced or is it do I have money? Can I afford to go pull $60 out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I afford to go pull $60 out? Stuff like that.
That's right. And there are a lot of banking apps where you can look at your bank lets you look at your balance, but that doesn't tell you about your budget. And that's one of the things that's good. So I wanted to talk about Rocket Money briefly. This is one that used to be called Truebill. And it does a lot of the same things where it keeps track of your spending and your income and categorizes things. But the real feature that Truebill initially rolled out, that was the reason to use it, was this thing where it lowers your bills. And what they do is they'll look at various of your transactions, things you subscribe to, really. So whether it's your cable bill or your phone bill or your newspaper subscription, whatever, and they will offer to contact those companies on your behalf and negotiate a lower price for you. And they do all the legwork, and it costs you nothing for them to ask. If they do get a lower price, they take a portion of the savings over a period of time. So you got to look and see whether it's worthwhile for you. So I did this with a couple of things. I did this with my phone bill when I was with AT&T, and they lowered my bill. They saved, I don't know, $15-20 a month over this period of time. And they did it with my newspaper bill, my newspaper subscription. And so there are other ones where I didn't want them messing with it. Like, don't talk to them. I said, don't do that. I don't know if it was completely worthwhile because they do take a good chunk of the savings, and you don't really realize that savings until after like 2, 3, 4 months, I think it was in some cases. But they are free with a premium product, and let's see, what was the differences on it? Here it is. It tracks your spending and compares it to your history. You've spent more this month, you spent less this month. It will auto detect subscriptions, so it can do that whole lowering your bill thing. If you get premium, which is $7 a month, it gives you your full credit report rather than just your score, and something called cancellation concierge. So when it comes time to, say, cancel your cable subscription, so you don't have to do the whole, like, are you sure you want to cancel? What if we gave you this and that? No, just cancel it. I am moving and you can't provide me with service anymore. Well, what if we gave you this? So they have somebody who does all that for you. And then they also do things like net worth tracking and that sort of stuff. So for people who have net worth, not me, that would track that sort of thing for you as well. So I haven't found it really necessary. I mean, their tracking and spending stuff is okay. Like a lot of them, they really struggle with categorizing things that they've sucked in through the syncing with your bank accounts, because sometimes that stuff is really cryptic. And so and they do that thing where I mentioned before where I have told you every month that this goes into online services category. Why can't you just put it there? Or I do electronic giving to my parish, and it's like every month, every week, it's the same transaction. It looks exactly the same. And every week I tell it, in the future, every time you see this, categorize it as charitable giving. And I just have to keep doing it every week. So that's frustrating and annoying and keeps me from paying them money for the thing. But I don't worry too much about it. I'm not using this. This isn't, the end all be all of my financial tracking. So that's useful. One other thing I want to mention in addition to is another iOS app that is useful for finances. It's not for finance tracking per se, but it's an app called Bobby for iOS. Mm-hmm. It tracks your subscriptions so that, because if you go look, today, especially if you're a techie, and you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, we have so many subscriptions to so many services, whether it's streaming services or what have you. So Bobby will track from a list of existing services. They have hundreds listed, when things renew. Is it a monthly? Is it a yearly? How much? And it will let you know, hey, you're coming up. You still have this active subscription. It's coming up for renewal. Are you still using it? And so it's a way, because I bet if you audit yourself, you'll find that there are subscriptions that you still have that you're still paying for that you didn't realize. Yeah.
Well, that's what I have in an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Is every month, but I've started to move to Bobby.
Yes.
Because this way it'll start telling me instead of me always going to look for it. Every month saying, okay, what's up this month? And it helps you weed through some of the ones you don't want. Or if you just did it for a year and it was like, okay, well, genealogy stuff, I did one for a year and I went, nah, I don't use this that much. So you have to go back and you have to turn it off. So This is a good way to get you to do that.
I use a combination of I use a numbers spreadsheet and Bobby, but the numbers spreadsheet is I have like all the subscriptions, all of them, monthly, whether it's monthly, yearly, the annual cost, the type of subscription, how I pay it. So like on what, debit card or credit card or whatever. And then I do an annual audit of this. So in addition to using Bobby, I do this as well. Every beginning of the year, I go through like, am I still using this? Do I still want to use this? Has the price gone up? How much has it gone up? And I make some hard decisions, and I sometimes go, you know what? I may be using this, but I don't want. But I'm spending too much on this. I mean, I look at these categories. I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of money I'm spending on this stuff.
Well, and it's a good thing to have that stuff where you can find it easily because, for example, Amazon Prime, it's like every year now has been going up. It's it used to be what, $50 a year or something like that. Yeah. Now it's 110, 120, 130, whatever it is.
139, isn't it?
Now? Yeah. And but if you keep an eye out, you may be able to find some deals. Like I know for those of us who are military and veterans, they always put out a Veterans Day sale on their Prime where it's usually half off. So stuff like that, where if you've got your subscriptions and you know that this particular subscription does come up for deals once in a while, that might be a time to look at and say, okay, now's the time to renew it, even though it doesn't actually auto renew for another 3 months, 6 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can get some good deals and you can save money that way too.
That's the game we play with streaming services. You wait for Black Friday sales and deals, and it's like, okay, now you can get Paramount for half off for the year.
Yeah. And subscribe while the show that you want to watch is on, and then cancel for a few months. And and that's why they're rolling them out one right after the other, the way they do these days.
Yeah.
So
one thing, just go back to Rocket Money. Should just mentioned it's part of that. If you've seen the commercial for Rocket Mortgage, the
other ones who bought it.
App was bought by them.
Yeah.
And they are Intuit affiliated because Rocket Mortgage was originally Quicken Loans.
Right.
But they are not owned by Intuit. But if it's a concern of having, even connection with Intuit, that's something to be aware of.
That's true.
But it's again, it could be, like I said, they are separate companies. They are not.
They got spun
owned
off
by Intuit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was never a part of Intuit. It was a licensing thing.
Oh, okay.
As Quicken Loans.
Yeah.
But it's just something to be aware of, that if you're concerned about Inuit, that's something about that you should be aware. So
yeah. So that's my list. So Father Cory, you use Money Dance. Joanne, you said you guys use Quicken, and so I should probably just so what I use is a little combination of Rocket Money, my bank's app, that their website and app, and spreadsheet. And that's basically what I use. I've tried these. I may go try them again. I've tried MoneyWiz. I don't think I mentioned that, and I've tried some of the others, and it just is. With a family of 7, it's a lot of time spent categorizing, and I'm like, I'm not sure that's useful for me, that categorizing. Maybe if I were a more accountant type of person, it would be better, but I just can't get my head around it. And, I can't say I've always been a financial whiz. In fact, I will say I've never been great with finances. In my 50s, I'm finally getting into a place where my finances are looking better. But nevertheless, we are where we are, and I'll keep trying things as they improve. Frankly, I think AI, we'll talk about it in a bit, could improve this area a lot by being smarter about transactions and what they are and how they fit. I would love that sort of assistance. So excellent. So that's our discussion of personal finance software. And if you have any particular questions in this area or other products that you folks would like to mention and recommend, you can do so by emailing us at technology@sqpn.com, or join a conversation in our Discord at sqpn.com/discord. So before we move on, I would like to take a moment to thank some patrons who have added us to their budget to help us continue to bring you the secrets of technology, including Cyprian C., Ron B., Damian M., Gene L., and Chad M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And when you put those into your finance software, make sure to mark them as tax deductible, because SQPN is a 501c3. All right, so let's talk about some headlines. This one is just a bit of a public service announcement. There's a botnet out there that is comes around once in a while and keeps getting itself upgraded, and it's a malicious botnet that sends out spam mails that contain viruses, and this one is called Emotet. And what it will do is it can send an email that appears to come from someone in your contacts, where it addresses you by name and seems to be replying to an existing email thread, and it will contain an attachment. I think a Word doc is usually, or some sort of Office document, and that document will then have a virus inside it. One of the things to keep in mind is when you get Office docs that are very large, like this, they talk about ones being over 500 megabytes, which is frankly, I'm not sure I could take my software would download an attachment that large, but if you get attachments that large from people that you know, and especially when you're not expecting it, be very wary. The reason it's that large is because that usually chokes virus detection software. So they artificially enlarge it with all kinds of spurious data to make it, pass by the virus detectors. So, something to keep in mind.
One nice thing is a lot of your email clients, whether it is Gmail or if you're using Proton Mail or one of the online mail services, or if you're using Thunderbird or something like that, it will show you the size of the attachment.
Yeah.
Where where you click to download the attachment or view the attachment, it will show you the size of it.
Yes.
So that's something good habit to be at. Kind of glances. Okay, 1 meg, 2 meg, yeah, not a big deal. That might have a few pictures in there. 500 meg.
I don't want 500 meg attachments from people.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all I keep thinking is filters, filters, filters. I know some of this comes from your regular contacts, but I know my regular contacts enough, and if they send me something, they usually tell me, I'm going to be sending you something.
Right.
If they just send it out of the blue, the first thing I would do is pick up the phone and say, why did you send me this?
Well, the way that they're trying to trick people is that it's part of an existing email thread. So unless you're expecting a large attachment as part of an existing,
Right.
that's a red flag. One of the things that Microsoft started doing was disabling macros as a default, so that when the document opens, the macro is the payload. That's how it runs. That's the virus. And so now they're trying these documents will pop up as saying, "Oh, enable content, enable the macros so that you can see the content," and it's this dire warning that you need to enable it. Don't do that. So if you open a document from someone and it says, "Hey, run a macro," think carefully. Why would it need to run a macro? So just in general. So be careful, folks. So our next headline is a specifically Catholic technology story. This is there's a new Blessed Carlo Acutis VR game coming out this October, and Blessed Carlo, it was the 15-year-old Italian video gamer, kid who has been beatified and is on his way to canonization, and he's known for having built a Eucharistic Miracles website back in the early 2000s, and like Star Wars, and was did some programming and that sort of thing. So this new game called the Acutis game is billed as an open world VR video game that lets you join him, Blessed Carlo, on epic adventures through time and space. He's not the doctor from Doctor Who, but from time and space, through church history, meeting famous meeting saints, and going to famous places in our faith and that sort of thing. There's a video trailer that you can watch, and when I watched it, I didn't see much about how the game plays, and I wasn't super impressed by the graphic quality. We're not talking, Halo level graphics here, that sort of thing. But what do you think? Is this like cheesy trying to be like everyone else, or is there some value in doing stuff like this?
No, I think there's value. I do. And as one who has had to use video and media from, air quote, Catholic companies who are a little short on, how shall we say, updated graphic type of stuff. Any of this, if it will get the minds of our young ones even thinking for 5 seconds of something else, that we could actually use something like this to take them on a trip to see saints in their own environment, in their own time, I'm for it. Okay. I mean, unless it's $4,000, you need $2,000 Apple headsets that are coming out shortly, and stuff like that. I mean, it's another way to be accessible to the generation that we have right now. And this is where they live. A lot of them live in this universe, so let's get in their universe and evangelize them.
Yeah, I think it can be a good thing. Of course, they advertise it as an open world metaverse, first Catholic open world metaverse. And it's like, okay, buzzword, Catholic buzzword.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, and so I kind of smirk a little bit, only because how many times have we seen projects like this where there's a lot of promise and they could be a really good evangelization tool. And like you said, though, Dom, the graphics don't look so hot and they're really not very good and they don't play well. And if this is what they're trying to make it, where people can walk through the history of the church and they're adding all these historical figures in there, I think it could be a wonderful thing. And it can be a great, like you said, Joanne, can be a wonderful teaching tool, a wonderful way to reach out to, especially, teenage groups. But I guess the history of gaming in the
Christian
Catholic Church isn't exactly.
Christian video
Bible
games.
Adventures on the NES was horrible.
Yeah.
Well, and there is a difference between Christian and Catholic.
Yeah.
And I have seen the difference in sometimes in graphic. No, I have. I mean, I'm still using stuff. I'm using stuff right now in the parishes that, has a marked step up from what we used to have, because some of them were really bad cartoons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When I said Christian video games, like there was a period of time when, whether it was a Christian or Protestant or Catholic, the quality of Christian video games in not even just the technology, but even just in the gameplay was lower. And I think that's an important point to make, is if we're going to be doing the most important subject of all, which is faith, we still have to strive for the highest quality in technology and in gameplay, and make it you can't say, well, it's good enough because it's Catholic or good enough because it's religious content. No. Right. And that's one of the reasons why with SQPN, for example, I strive for the highest possible quality in our production.
Well, and it's not just video games. It's not just video games. It's all media.
Yes.
Mother Angelica did amazing work. She brought a lot of people to church and kept a lot of people in the church that were becoming upset by what was going on. But no one is ever going to accuse EWTN of being high quality, high production value. Never happened. Now, you've got the Formed website, formed.org, which that's Augustine Institute and St. Joseph's Communications, and they put out amazing high quality video, high quality content.
That's what I was trying to get at.
What we need to strive for, So, I that's why hopefully with this game, hopefully that as they develop it, the gameplay part will come out, because even graphics, I mean, of course, people like, the 8-bit and the 16-bit pixel art graphics. So, I mean, graphics aren't quite as big a deal in a game. But if it's got good gameplay and if it's interesting and then it's fun and kids and then that would be a very good thing.
If it's just walking around in an open world and you then standing in front of Saint Therese and then she talks at you for 5 minutes, that's not going to hold kids' interest.
Right.
It's got to be more than that. So hopefully it is. And we'll find out. October 12th, 2023, the Feast of Blessed Carlo Acutis is the date set for the game's release. So our last headline, speaking of the AIs, before we were talking about AIs, ChatGPT version 4 is out for certain people. If you're a paid subscriber to the OpenAI's service or various other products that have included in it as well, ChatGPT 4 claims to beat 99% of humans who take the bar exam. That's the one to become a lawyer. 99% of students who compete in the biology Olympiad, and this whole list of other tests like SATs and AP tests and other academic and certification related tests. And I'm sorry, does it matter? Does this? I don't know that this impressed me that it can pass tests. It doesn't actually tell me whether you're useful.
Especially a lot of these tests are knowledge kind of tests. You're talking about like AP World History, AP US Government, the SAT, the LSAT. A lot of that is, do you know the information to put on the test?
Right. It's not about can you think? Can you reason? Yeah.
And even things like English Lit. Well, okay, ChatGPT can put out a passable essay, or at least a passable first draft of an essay.
A basic,
very easily.
Yeah, basic, very standard essay format for
so
open, close, 3 paragraphs in between, that sort of thing. Right.
And has the information to do it with, in theory, with the truth. Although, Dom, you figured out that ChatGPT doesn't always do so well on, say, summaries for certain TV shows. But
right, I tried to do that. Although, to be fair, GPT-4 is an update to the one that's available to most of us and that I used before. It's got a more up-to-date model, but it also has a better model. It's better at getting actual facts. Like a lot of these ones, when you ask it about a particular person, it will come up with all kinds of bizarre claims about people because they're not AI, like in the sense of they're not reasoning, they're not thinking, they're language models. So they're basically, I like to think it as a very advanced version of autocorrect. You know, when you do that autocorrect game where you just put in a word and then you just hit the middle word over and over again.
Next.
It's a predictive algorithm. It's predicting what the next thing is going to be. Now, this does it on a much higher level, a sophisticated level, but that's essentially what it's doing, is predicting what the next word is going to be, and that's how it works. And so that's why it sometimes doesn't do that well. I find these models can be very useful for certain things. Like yesterday, I was reading a news article talking about this guy who works for the government, makes $225,000 a year, and I'm like, what is that in take-home pay? So I asked, I say, okay, and for someone like me in my situation, so I asked ChatGPT. I said, what is the monthly take-home pay of a man who has 5 dependents living in Massachusetts? who makes $325,000 a year. And it went through the whole thing. It said Social Security and withholdings and all this other thing. And it bottom lined it. And it was like 16 grand or something like that, which is a very nice bottom line. A month. That would be very nice for a family of 7 to have. And
that's half my annual salary in a month. I mean,
you don't want me to go there.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, is that accurate? So then I put in my salary, and it came out pretty close to what my actual take-home pay is. So I'm like, that's a pretty, that sort of thing. Like, I couldn't Google that. Like, if I tried to Google that, I would have had to go through all these charts and figure all that sort of stuff out. It would have been a lot harder to do. So I like that. I mean, one thing I use it for a serious purpose for work is I take summaries of each of our podcasts and I put it in there. I said, give me an engaging tweet under 250 characters. I need to leave space for the URL that, based on this description of a podcast episode. And, folks have been following us on Twitter or Facebook. They've been seeing these out there. I often have to edit and tweak it a bit, but so it's useful for things like that. And I can see that sort of thing. I don't ever seeing this an AI being good enough to be a lawyer, because being a lawyer isn't about passing the bar exam.
Right.
Being good in life at anything isn't about passing a test. Frankly, and lots of people will tell you that the grades you got in college are not necessarily an indicator of your ability to be good at a particular job.
Well, here's the funny one is it's got the sommelier exams, which is the wine tasting. Wine expert. Wine tasting is oversimplifying. Wine expert.
Right.
And it's the theory side of it where you talk about, a Merlot should taste like, and this is the kind of grapes that they use to make a Malbec, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's all theory. That's all, learning knowledge. But an AI can't actually take a bottle of wine and taste it and tell you, yes, I am tasting, red fruit and this type of flavor and the tannins. And
even further, it can't tell you whether it's good. Enjoy it. It cannot make a value judgment. And that's the big area where AI will never get there, because AI is never going to be sentient. It's never going to be a person, no matter what these people say. Data is a toaster, as Jimmy famously said. And it's never going to be able to make a value judgment. Go ahead, Father Cory.
One thing it will do, though, is it could tell you what are some good food pairings to go with it.
Definitely.
It could.
Because it would know that, again, like this kind of food, this savory food is good with a sweeter wine or vice versa.
Which would be based on knowledge gained by human beings who've tasted.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So they're useful as assistants or tools, but they're never going to replace people for a lot of these things.
I would like to see it take a music exam.
For
playing,
writing, music theory.
Yeah. Music theory, music composition.
It could probably do music theory pretty well, because that's still a lot
science.
of knowledge and science.
Yeah, it's a lot of composition or arranging is a whole other story.
Right.
Because you have to take those concepts and put them to use. Composition is creative, original. Arranging is taking something somebody else wrote.
There was an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Data was composing music, and I remember this discussion, which was interesting. Is Picard points out to Data, while he didn't compose it. He was playing like a Mozart. Your technique was flawless, but it didn't have soul, and that's the thing that an AI could create something technically flawless, but it would never have that soul, and that's the art of music.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So, very interesting. So we'll continue to see how that goes. All right, so those are our headlines. Let's move on to our picks of the week. And Joanne, I'll let you go first. What's your pick this week?
Well, it was inspired by when you were talking about programs for kids going to school and college. And I'm not sure if I went looking to see if I've talked about this before, but it's a cross-platform program called Audio Note. And what it does is it's a notepad and voice recorder. Okay, so basically you put your computer out on the table, and as you're taking notes, it's recording whatever's going on, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a lecture, and as you're taking notes, it's assigning it to the point in the recording that you're taking notes on. I found that to be a very, very useful tool, especially in staff meetings. But when I was doing master's work, recently, not way before, this was a very useful thing for me to go back and work later on. I like it a lot.
Yep.
And I forget what the price of it is now. I don't know the one I have is a standalone. I don't have a subscription. I think Audio Note 2 is subscription version. But it is cross-platform. You can try it for a month, see if it works for you. You can do photos with it at the same time. So if something's going on, you can take a photo and it will, attach it. It'll attach anything to where your audio is. Of course, when you do this, you have to make sure you have permission to take audio.
Right. That's an important aspect.
Be able to record anything. So you got to let your teachers know, or you have to let your staff people know that this is how this is working.
So it's $15 for the Mac app. It's free on iOS, although I think for a lot of the good features, it's $10.
Yeah.
You have to get the $10 upgrade. One of the things that's great is when you take notes and then you go back and look at your notes and go, I don't understand what I was thinking, what that note means. And then you got the audio right there to listen to. So that is a great idea.
And it also syncs to iCloud.
Oh, good.
So you can so you can listen to them in different places, but also that's where I keep most of everything because the files do tend to be big. If you don't have a lot of hard drive space, then you've got to keep them somewhere. So
yeah, good point. Great, good pick, Father Cory. What's yours?
So I'm going with something kind of fun. It's a fan podcast, fan audio cast, really kind of like an audio drama, but. For those of us who are Star Trek fans, we know that Voyager just kind of they made it home, the end.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And what happened after? And there were books that came out after, but of course in the Star Trek universe, books aren't canon.
Yes.
So you can take or leave books. It's not like some other canons like Star Wars where books matter. But so there's a lot of fans who are like, okay, so what did happen to the crew when they come back? And I get the feeling that the Voyager books weren't exactly the most well received either. So this is Star Trek Voyager season 8. Like I said, it's a fan podcast where it's audio dramas, really one person audio dramas where he's telling what he thinks happened after. And right now he's only got six episodes of the season up. I think he's doing like a full season. I can't remember exactly how long. And there's some time between each of them, about a year or so. But he does a really good job. He voices each of the characters and he voices them in kind of the way they speak. And he kind of tells in between commentary and stuff like that and sound effects from the show and stuff and things like that. And it's really well done. It's a really good story too. I really kind of enjoy it. Things didn't go quite as smoothly as the crew might have hoped when they got home. Nice. The crew was pulled off Voyager. Voyager was sent off to the planet Utopia Planitia shipyards to be refurbished and refit and all that kind of stuff. And it tells about how the different crew are affected with coming home. Tom Paris and his relationship with his parents and stuff like that. Really, really well done series, and hopefully he can do more. Again, it is one person kind of doing the whole thing. He's doing the writing and the reading and everything, but he does a good job. He's also working on getting animation done on YouTube. He's done like the first part of the first episode animated. And so that's kind of cool. So that eventually he could have this all as you could watch it instead of listening to it.
Cool. So, yeah. Sounds like an audiobook then. Yeah. So he's reading it like an audiobook with special effects. Cool. Very good. So my pick is something I mentioned actually last week in passing. And so I thought I'd make it my pick this week. And so Thomas mentioned that, when you have any type of electronics in the bedroom, and if you're at all sensitive to light when you sleep, all of these really bright LEDs. Why? I don't know why all these devices have such bright LED, especially the blue ones. Like a little blue LED will light up your room like it's daytime. So this is something to counteract that. You can put electrical tape over it, but this is a LED light blocking stickers. They're formulated. They're made to. They come in all different sizes and shapes, because some of these LEDs can be pretty big. And sometimes like the LED is such that if you put electrical tape over it, would block things. It would look ugly. But these will block between 50% and 80% of all LED lights completely. It'll black them out, which is the key here. They're formulated to black them out. And you get a whole sheet or 2 sheets of them, several dozen. I don't know exactly how many, for $6, which is a pretty good deal.
Wow.
Of all of these LEDs. And my wife is very sensitive to LED light or any light when she's sleeping. We have to have blackout curtains in the bedroom and that sort of thing. And so, this was the solution to block all of the chargers and all the other things that have little lights that are on in the night. So
where was this when I needed it?
Yeah, I was gonna say I need this. I'm one of those that I'm fairly sensitive to light as well. You know, I'm glad my alarm clock, for example, you can dim it down to almost invisible during the day.
Right.
You know, but you get those little phone chargers, and they've got this one little light that always happens to point right at your face. Or never fails.
Air conditioners is another big culprit. They have those big, screens. And so these have large rectangles that can go over something like an air conditioner light, like the mini splits that are above your bed, for instance, we have that, or air filters. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So I found it's 100 stickers per sheet. So you get all kinds of stuff. And so very useful. All right. So those are our picks of the week. And that's it from us. We would love to hear your feedback on anything we've discussed today. You can let us know by commenting at the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can send an email to technology@sqpn.com or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/tech209, TEC209. That's the show number. Remember to like the episodes of Secrets of Tech on our Facebook page, retweet them on Twitter where we're at SQPN, leave us comments wherever you find us. We love to hear from you. Until next time, Joanne Mercier, thank you for joining me in sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks, Dom.
Father Cory Sticha, thank you as well.
Thank you, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.